Welcome to Simon and White and the podcast at the crossroads of business, finance, and media. I'm Christian White and joined as always by Mark Simon. Mark, please say hello.
Hey everybody, how are you?
Mark, you've been back now a little while from Taiwan, but you're over there a lot, done a lot of business over there. And, Taiwan does a lot of things that are disappointing. Some of it, I think, is caused or at least supported by bad decisions made here in the United States.
Yes,
but
very much so.
What do you make of this? I don't like to give a lot of shout outs to the Washington Post, but I will in this case. They have an article about people who moved, who rather fled Hong Kong as the crackdown was happening there. And of course, you know this well because Jimmy Lai, your boss, is in jail in Hong Kong for freedom of speech, basically. And you yourself have been targeted by the authorities in Hong Kong. So you have people who've left Taiwan, but Taiwan just can't get its act together. These people are now going onward to other places, London, the United States, maybe Singapore. What do you make of this latest turn?
Well, I mean, look, I have some involvement in this. I've dealt with probably a couple of dozen. There's some other people in the Hong Kong community working in DC who've done a lot. Some people in the UK who've done a lot. It's not my full-time prerogative, but I did when I'm in Taiwan. It's not uncommon for me twice a week to meet with somebody from Hong Kong who's looking for advice, looking for that. Look, there's 27 to 35,000. I don't think they know the exact number of people who came over during 2019. And now they've been going back to Hong Kong. A lot of young people. First of all, Taiwan needs people. Okay. So you've got people who are coming to you who want to stay, who basically are fleeing a communist regime, which means they're ideologically simpatico with you, and you're not letting them in. To me, it's like all this talk about Taiwan, we have to let them in the Indo-Pacific shared values. Well, one of our values as Americans is that we protect refugees and we take in true refugees. And the Taiwanese, I'm just so tired of they get to live on training wheels. And what you said earlier is exactly right. We have an entire industry, especially in Washington, D.C., of making excuses for the Taiwanese. I've seen it. I've been going to Taiwan since 1990. Okay. And I've seen it all the time. Everybody's a lobbyist, or they're working for Taiwan, or they're selling weapons, or doing something like that. Taiwan is always treated with kid gloves, and it's the worst thing that happened. It has happened how we treat them, because they're always basically allowed to get away with these ridiculous economic policies. We had the pork thing that held things back for years, but it's still, Taiwan's because of China. And my point is that it's allowed them to become soft and to become weak, and still allowed these factions in the DPP. It is not KMT keeping these people out. Chai could issue the order tomorrow and make those people from Hong Kong stay. It's a bureaucratic issue. They will tell you it's a legislative issue. I have enough visibility and knowledge of the issue that it's not, because I know DPP legislators who I've talked to who are sick to their stomach over this.
Right. And just for background for the listeners, so the DPP is the Democratic Progressive Party, the party of the President Tsai Ing-wen. And they're tough on China national security wise, but they're pretty bad on economics. They're kind of lefty, versus the KMT, which used to be the pro-capitalist party and isn't necessarily anymore, that's been profoundly weak on China.
Yeah, I mean, look, what Chai does is she doesn't want to have a fight with a lot of her people who are Taiwanese are xenophobes. I mean, there's a lot of xenophobia in Taiwan. They don't like foreigners. Look what they make expats go through. You can basically open up a bank account. Basically, they like to keep the game closed there. They're not open to immigration, unlike even places like Japan and Korea have become. You know what I'm saying? They're just not open to it. And then they use probably the most insulting argument that I think, and that's what really set me off, was that, well, we don't know if there's Chinese sleeper agents among the Hong Kong population. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's Chinese sleeper agents all over Taiwan, and they've been there for years, and they're probably all in their 80s now, okay? So the idea that these Hong Kong kids are going to come over there and they've been secretly trained by the CCP and, the Ministry of State Security to infiltrate Taiwan, you made a good comment earlier. What jobs are they going to give these people? Are they going to make them, You come over, you run in the bookstore, and now you're going to come over there and all of a sudden take over the secrets department. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. Be an air traffic controller, right? You could probably there are probably other things they can do. Right?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff they can do, and so I know, and they'll be sneaking away at night to travel. Look, bottom line here is, besides all the grief that they deserve, Taiwan claims to share the same values of the United States. This is not a value that we should basically observe. Any other country that was not doing their part to take in these refugees, we would have harsh words for. Okay, even privately. The administration needs to step up and have some harsh words for the Taiwanese here. And the Taiwanese have to know that, look, we're not going to sit around all day long and play these games about you being in this group or you being in that group or we having this trade or you having that trade. There's no sense if you don't share our values. And one of our values is that we stick up for the strong, help the weak. You're weak, we're strong, we're supposed to help you. That's our moral duty. These Hong Kong refugees are weak, you're strong, you're supposed to step up and help them. Kristen, I have so little time for the Taiwanese because I know how petty this is. I know how xenophobic it is. And I know that basically half the reason they're doing it is really because they just can.
All right. Well, and, these are not refugees fleeing with just the shirts on their backs, or maybe they are, but it's not like Syrian refugees, frankly. I know you're ethnically Syrian, but it's not like people who they're coming with families. They're going to be probably needing state assistance for the foreseeable future. At best, they're going to get a job in a nail shop. These are young, eager people, highly educated, the best of the East and the West in their background. Anyone should want them in their economy and society. It's not like they're going to be a burden on the state.
Look, they're an embarrassment. I just be honest. This is an embarrassment to the Taiwanese people. They get their back up. They're like, oh, you can't say this. But most of them slink away. I tweeted out a couple of things off it. I got a couple of hostile responses, but I got 5 or 6 things from Taiwanese friends who, one or two of them, who basically sent messages back to me, said, I'm sick to my stomach. And this is the other part of this. This is all on President Tai. This is all on her, Chai. This is on her. She could make this go away tomorrow if she wanted to. She chooses not to because of domestic political pressures, okay? She chooses not to out of this belief that maybe they might offend China. I don't think that drives it. I think it's just the petty politics of they just don't want to really help these people. They're fearful that it might lead to other Chinese coming there. Look, this is a shrinking country. It's got a lot of issues. And it's just not good. And the fact of the matter is both of the liberal press, I shouldn't say the liberal press, the media that protects Tai, right. You criticize her, and then all of a sudden people, oh, how can you dare criticize her? Well, I can criticize her because I think she's blowing it here, and I think this is a real black mark on her. And I actually have heard from 2 people on Capitol Hill and one lobbyist who who are huge fans of Taiwan. One guy used the great line, it was the great line, it's the Dick Cheney line, don't make it hard for your friends to help you.
Right.
I'll just say it's not a good thing.
Well, and they love to play footsie with people like Kurt Campbell, the whole Armitage clan of people who say that they are Taiwan's friends. But, these people are more famous in Taiwan than they are in Washington. And I haven't seen anything being done of substance for them. And that sort of leads into our next topic, which is related to Taiwan. And this is from the Wall Street Journal. U.S. Trade Representative's office on Wednesday unveiled a new pact with Taipei to promote bilateral trade in areas such as digital trade, clean energy, and labor rights. The 2 partners also collaborate to address non-market practices and policies, including those conducted by state-owned enterprises, an issue representing Washington's leading complaint about China's trade policy. Separately, and this is part 2, Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo is launching a separate dialogue with Taiwan to address technology, trade, and investment, citing the importance of Taiwan as a leading supplier of advanced semiconductors. That all sounds fine and good, but then when you dig into it, it's really about nothing. They're going to talk about digital trade. What's really to talk about? Clean energy. Taiwan is closing down its best clean energy asset, which is its nuclear reactors. Of course, that's been happening in some parts of the U.S. to labor rights. None of this is really going to improve anything in either country or trade between the two countries. It's more just process. And this is on the heels of Taiwan being kept out of Biden's ridiculous Indo-Pacific economic framework. I call it the Seinfeld framework. It's the framework about nothing. They wouldn't even let them be in the nothing framework. This is just some consolation set of discussions. And yet I'm sure that Taiwan's government is chalking this up to a huge victory, even though it really doesn't change anything in the real world.
Like I said, I first showed up in Taiwan in 1990. And one thing about Taiwan is, basically Ronald Reagan cleared the deck for Taiwan. Carter helped, when Carter was throwing him some bones, but Reagan is the one who said, hey, these are my people. I like them. Now, before that, the U.S. was very friendly with Taiwan. We tried to help them in trade and all these things, but really it was Reagan that really nothing has happened. They've never needed anything since that. TMSC, all their companies, Foxconn, Taiwanese don't need anything. They don't need anything from us. The idea that the government can actually get involved in trade with Taiwan companies is ridiculous. Taiwan is a place that makes stuff. If you come over and visit me and you sit down with me and the guys we have cigars with, I got my buddies who own restaurants. I got my friends who make doohickeys. I call them the doohickey guys. What do you make? Oh, I make a lever that goes on this and the lever turns that. They're the ones who make all the levers. I got another guy who makes all the little hinges where he's a vital part of our life. He makes the plungers for the bathroom, the plugs that go up and down and flush the toilets. Mm-hmm. I know another guy from Intex. They make every floaty that your son Chase ever going to put on for the next 10 years. Intex is making. These guys make stuff, okay? They build stuff. It's also a country of now 25, 26 million, whatever it is, 24 million, whatever it is, aging. There's nothing that they're going to get into. Their banking system, what are we going to do? Have digital trade? What digital trade? It's still got to get on a ship and it's still got to get on an airplane. It's called Amazon. It's called Alibaba. You don't need it. It's a complete farce. It's a bone to be thrown. But here's the one thing the U.S. is doing. The Commerce Secretary is not looking to trade with Taiwan. She is looking to suck that technology and those semiconductor plants into.
She's from Rhode Island. It's the mafia way,
It is. She is. I'll tell you something, man. We got like the witches of Eastwick when it comes to trade policy with China. I'm telling you, it's John Kerry, Janet Yellen, Ty over at USTR, and Raimondi. I wanted to do a poster of that. I don't care. People can call me sexist, but it really is. Remember the Jack
Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson movie, Witches of Eastwick.
Yeah,
that's like John Kerry and those three in U.S. China policy. It's horrible. They're just horrible. The Daily Bee, Babylon Bee could do it and not get in trouble, but I don't care. I was watching Ricky Gervais the other night, and I looked at my bank account the other day, and I said, that doesn't matter. I can say anything I want.
Oh, good for you. That's what Gervais's new thing on Netflix. It's amazing Netflix let that through, considering they're so woke, but it's pretty good. I got a little part of that myself.
Side note, very strong until the last 5 minutes, and then he just kind of even the last joke was like, but very strong until the last 5 minutes. But yeah, I don't care about that stuff. Doesn't mean anything to me,
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, but no, I would look more and more. You're going to see a lot of these Taiwanese companies. That's what's going on with Raimondi. She's basically looking to lessen our things, to lessen. Our, no, it's meaningless. It's just they're 24 million. Basically, it's half of California. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. We're going to sit around and talk about climate and it's so pointless. Looking across the Taiwan Strait at China, What do you make of what's going on there? The market's been turbulent, but when it's trending up, and I do think this is a dead cat bounce amid a overall bear market that's going to get a lot uglier before it gets prettier. But nonetheless, the China part is some optimism over Shanghai reopening. Shanghai isn't really where they make a lot of the stuff, but I guess it's technically a financial and intellectual capital, media capital, as far as you can get one in China. Coming up on the Congress later this year, where Xi Jinping will crown himself for a third time as president. Yeah. What do you make of what's going on there?
I think they've damaged themselves significantly with their own people. And I think while it will restart, it will not reach its new heights. In other words, it's like a town that basically has struck blow after blow against the business community, and the business community is now just leaving. And what I mean by it's not the business community leaving China, but it's a lot of their elites who basically, besides the few that are part of the CCP structure, a lot of their people have earned their money. And so I think what you're going to see is people much more hesitant to jump back into things. The other thing is, and just there's like three other things that come up to mind, and I was actually thinking about this. The first thing is, in not bouncing back, we're starting to see demographics really come into play. And what I mean by that is in real estate. So we're not going to see this real estate propelled economy drive forward, which is a lot of where the worth and the value of the Chinese people were. 2016, 16 million births. 2021, 10 million births. Go back. It's been dropping like that for years. Those people from 2000 and, 2000, 1990, there's more of them, same than there were in 2000. In 2000, it's dropping. The demand is dropping. People see it. Real estate demand is hurting. That's the first thing. So you're not going to see the real estate powered wealth coming back, and that drives a lot of things. The next thing you're going to see is you're seeing demographics actually take effect. There's a startling statistic in Hong Kong that just came out of the survey. From ages 19 to 26, the population from 2016 to 2021 has dropped 25%. That's huge. That's like literally sending a generation off to war. That is literally comparable to that's fewer than the number of men that were lost in World War I and affected England for years. All the best and brightest are leaving Hong Kong, and they're leaving China too. So demographics are going to be a huge player in terms of the talent. It's not going to stay. And the final thing that has really, really hurt them is basically people are moving money out. So in other words, the investment that they'd be looking for in China, people are finding ways to invest that money out. You have locked these people down for almost 3 years now. Right. When we come up, it's 2.5 years. When we come up, they're going to probably keep the lockdowns in Beijing and Shanghai in some effect until November. That's close to 3 years. You have destroyed a cycle. You've basically wrecked a society in many ways. Now, people say, well, we're coming back and we're coming back strong. But have you ever gone to some of these towns that used to be, it's a horrible thing to say. It's like going to Cleveland or going to Ann Arbor. I go there, or you go to, not Detroit, that's hopeless. But if you go to like places, or you go to even New York City now and they say, we're coming back strong,
Yeah, New York is my favorite. New York has always had a bright future. It's just the present that's lamentable. Always.
Yeah, it's like everybody's like, I don't think so. You know what I'm saying? Right. And I think that's the situation with China. And I think they have a real issue here, that they're going to start having to recognize that basically, okay, we bought in with the big guy, but Winnie the Pooh is not leading us to the promised land. So that's it. Now, if you do have to go back into China, I got 2 areas to invest for you. First of all, look at tech and SaaS, because they need people and they're going to come back. And I think that's where they'll be. It's been beaten down so much, it's probably just going to come back and make profit. And the next group that I would actually look at in China that I think is going to be very, very interesting is agriculture.
Well, that's interesting. So, just anything in agriculture? Are you looking more at poultry and hogs, or what?
I think I would look for agriculture technology, but I would look at anything that's improving yield and going up. I don't have some names for you right now because I'm not final on them yet. But I was looking the other day. I think it's quite obvious that basically China still has a manpower advantage when it comes to agriculture. They still can put people on the farm. And also, they're going to continue to grow. I mean, they're the largest producer of wheat in the world after the EU. So they're the largest country that produces the most wheat in the world, largest rice producer in the world. And I think you're going to see them start to try to export that and turn that into an actual money-making commodity, largely because their domestic demand is going to continue to drop and it's not growing. So they're going to be looking for hard currency. They're going to be moving abroad. I think it's going to be fantastic. And I think the other thing we're going to see from them too is incomes are going to continue to rise. It always happens. I mean, China, it's not that China's going to go, it's not going to like go into massive recession for 20 years. And, even when Japan was not doing well, I mean, you could still get a really good meal in Japan, look nice and everything. In other words, China's going to be going like, they're not going to be going like this. They're just going to be going, along like that. And
Right. Well, as long as they're not catching up to us.
Well, I don't think there's a chance of that happening because of immigration and because of demographics. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Happen.
Because of communism. And speaking of organizations with communist ideologies, let's talk go woke, go broke Nordstrom. All right, Mark. So today, according to my, Apple calendar, and I can't change this, it informs me of all the PC holidays. I'm a gay guy, but apparently this is LGBTQI plus week, Pride Awareness Month. Not a week. No, has to be longer than a week. Nordstrom put out an ad today, and I got to say this, I looked at this and all right, I don't currently live in West Hollywood, but I did for the better part of the decade, broadly defined. Also lived in the neighborhood in Washington, D.C., other places like this. And what I saw, it's just completely and totally alien, a complete freak show. Gays, lesbians might always have dressed a little bit on the eccentric side, the ones I knew, maybe brighter colors and sandals on gay guys, maybe too much flannel on lesbians. This is like off Broadway, art college, freak show. And yeah, we'll put it up in the video for those who are watching, but just to describe it for those who are listening, it's sort of like a Benetton ad. I think there is one white guy who's allowed to be in there among 6 people, but he's, I assume transgender, something like that. And this is from a place that is supposed to be high end, dressy retail, suburbia, $150 for a tie minimum. It's just nuts. What do you make of it?
In many ways, I'm a boss. I mean, I manage a lot of people. I have a lot of people work for me, report up to me. I feel responsible for a tremendous amount, in the thousands, actually, and I just keep coming back to what my old marketing manager in the hotels, who was gay, Colin, said. He said, Mark, gay people shop at Home Depot. In other words, you don't have to patronize. And when you show this ad and you see this ad, most of me thinks that probably this is going to end up being someone from the HR department. I'm almost guessing straight female, you know what I'm saying? White female, that she's being woke. There's probably, I'm sure they had input from people who think that that's okay. But I found it to be a real caricature. You know what I'm saying? I think that level of the way it is, I couldn't imagine you doing that to any other group and not offending somebody. I have had probably, I can easily say dozens, probably hundreds of work. I've worked with gay people. I mean, we're in the media business and the hotel business. That tends to have a fairly high number of homosexuals, LGBTQ, whatever it, in that thing. And I've never felt that you should do anything but just treat them with respect and treat everybody with respect. it just makes life easier. In other words, it's not because I'm the great social justice warrior and the guy who sees through. It's just easier. Treat people decently. I really think this ad, I think it doesn't treat people decently. I think if you're a homosexual or you're a lesbian and you're really just, that's your private life, I think somehow you're going to feel if you don't conform to the corporate, basically, party view this thing is. Who walks around like that? I mean, right. I work in a media company that has like a fashion section, and I think we have like 9 gay people in it. I never saw any of them dressed like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, most of them wore jeans and a T-shirt. Right. You know, it's just, so I find it really condescending. And it goes to the point, you know, you can bring up Unilever in a second. It goes to the point, I really think senior executives have to go inside their companies and have to say, we are about the shareholder. I'm tired of all this stakeholder stuff. I'm tired of somebody in the HR department causing me trouble. Because at the end of the day, I can assure you, inside Nordstrom's, someone right now is having a conversation with the CEO and the COO who's gay, who's saying, you know, this was a little bit over the top. And so next time, you know, do you have some common sense? This is the HR department out of control and the PR department. It's people who don't have P&L responsibilities, you know what I'm saying, trying to some agenda thing. And I'm actually thinking of, we go to Nordstrom's, and don't laugh at me. I buy my mirror because it's the only thing that stops me from scaling like a fish when I fly. You know what I'm saying? I just get so dried out.
Interesting.
And the person that I buy from is gay. The guy that I buy the stuff from is gay. So, you know, he sees me like 3 times a year or something like that, 4 times a year. This would insult him. I think this would insult him greatly. Or the guy, he's not in there, but I think it would insult him greatly. Yeah. Well,
it certainly.
I think it would, because he speaks to me. It's 2 men talking to each other. You know what I'm saying? And we're not having our pride moment there. It's just like my African American friends. I have a buddy for years. He was in Hong Kong, African American guy, very successful banker. And one time he said to me, we were out on a junk trip, and there were these Norwegian, you know, some Scandinavian fish-eating country people or something like that were out there with us. And all they were talking to about, oh, it must be so hard being a black man in America. So we get off, and he's like, yeah. And he moved, and so, and the women are, yeah. And we get off, and we get in the taxi, you know, we're going into Lang Kwai Fung to have a few beers or something like that. And he goes, Jesus, Simon. He goes, why is it these people think I get up every morning singing Old Man River? You know, he was like, because I know him. He's not a conservative, actually. He actually is very much. He's actually a pretty liberal guy. But he's like, I don't. This is not my life. This is not, you know. And later, when he married a lovely African American woman, you know, and it's not that she was actually much more conservative than he is. That's what I used to give him a hard time about. But you know, the fact of the matter is they're very decent. It's just people don't live their lives like that. I got 2 I've got 2 Chinese American children. I've got a Filipino American wife. You know, they make fun of the white guy in the house every once in a while, but that's me. And, you know, then I pulled the Syrian card. I said, you shouldn't pick on Arab Americans, you know, bigots. But the thing is that it's just when you look at this ad, Christian, it actually kind of made me kind of sad for the company, because it's like, people don't know what to do when they see that. Okay, what am I supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I worked in an office one time, true story, at Apple Daily. There was we had a young man who was quite flamboyant, and his boss, who was gay, told him to dial it down. and I said, did somebody complain? He goes, no, but I don't like it. He goes, I don't need to see his chest when we're in the office. You know, it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's just like, I don't know why it is. It's a sexualized ad that, you know, they're supposed to be selling ties and clothes.
But then that's the big thing, is that you see this, I see this and just have no desire whatsoever. Frankly, it's the idea of an ad making you uncomfortable and then, oh yes, I want to go buy a suit there. I want to go drop $200 on a shirt there. It's just,
Hey, look,
it's
I
not going to
gotta tell
happen.
you, I think I'm all for the AAPI, Black History Month, all that. People want to do it, and I think companies have to, if you're going to do it, and say that's it. But you're better off having your employees make a lot of money. That's what
Right.
that's what they're coming to work for.
Right.
Most of them, I think. I hope.
Yes. That's the
And
hope. That's the hope.
if they're not, you might want to move them out. You may not want to be your employee because if they're making a lot of money, you're making a lot of money.
Yeah.
Milton Friedman actually, literally, that Jimmy had a very tight. I mean, Jimmy Lai and Milton Friedman were truly friends. I mean, not.
Oh, I didn't realize that. That's that's very interesting.
When Milton passed away, Rose called Jimmy, and Jimmy flew to San Francisco and spent the next 4 days calling me, trying to figure out what to get at CVS because Rose would send him down for stuff. He's going back and forth to CVS to get her stuff. It was hilarious. But Milton Friedman, so because of that, I got to be a fly on the wall. Or much more blessedly, I got to basically sit at the dinner table sometimes. And we were talking about this whole, somebody used the term stakeholder, and you saw Milton's little head go, and he was very persuasive, and he was a happy warrior, and it was very interesting to talk at. And he said, look, here's what you do. You tell your employee, I'm going to let you make all the money you want. And if you as a boss want to give them a little bit of matching funds, that's your decision as a boss. You do that. And then tell them to go out and put the money to work in their community. But don't come into the company and turn the company into your thing. I find that, to be honest with you, I hate to say it, every time I see people who push that, it's an unhealthy relationship with the workplace. Very unhealthy. That you're asking the company to actually perform what you should be doing in the private sector. They're trying to grab the resources of the company and push it through there. Kind of like Unilever.
Yeah, you mentioned that. And so Nelson Peltz, who's a longtime, big investor, has a fund. Is it Trian Fund Management LP? It amassed a 1.5% stake. So fairly, not a huge stake in Unilever, but enough to get him a seat on the board. And he has experience with companies like that, including rivals. I think he was on Procter and Gamble's board, and he certainly is familiar with others that Unilever is underperforming, like Nestle. That's funny. The reports on this say, oh, well, they are facing inflation and supply chain problems, and that's why they're underperforming. But presumably, their competitors are facing the very same thing. Unilever has, though, a reputation for being much more politically correct, sort of like Coca-Cola, where you're like, why are you opining about voting laws? You make flavored water. Just go make flavored water that has too much sugar, which tastes delicious, and just be happy. But I don't know. So do you think Peltz coming in is going to address some of this? Do you think that executives are finally realizing, oh, maybe we should focus on core business?
Okay, I'm going to give something up here. I was talking to some friends about Twitter who are happy that Musk is going in. I was told that the reason why Musk basically wanted to come in, he wanted to get some seats on the board. He wanted to start making the changes, but basically he saw the place was just a psychopathic nut job place. And so you have to make the changes. You have to do them so aggressively. Now, the reason why you have to do that at Twitter is because Twitter was allowed to be set up that way. I actually like Jack Dorsey. I'm not one of these ones that think that, and even the woman who was the Indian woman or the Sri Lankan woman, very nice woman. Actually, I saw her. She was on Joe Rogan. Everybody hated her. I think that was completely she seemed to be a rational person. The problem was, again, the HR department in San Francisco was hiring every nut job. You know what I'm saying? A guy told me, he said, Twitter, and I've seen it actually personally, Twitter personnel are by far the most left-wing people of all of Silicon Valley. I mean, Twitter makes Google look like the John Birch Society. Okay. They are wacko because I've met with them. I've gone to their things. I mean, I'm not kidding you. I think they would consider the Rwandan genocide. There'd be people there as a diversity moment, and we shouldn't criticize African leaders Because in other words, it's really just a weird bunch. And we had our interactions at Apple Daily with them. And until we got finally to one sane guy, I wish we'd have kept those emails. I don't want to be a rat to somebody, but they're unbelievable. So my point is that Musk probably made the decision that he had to do that. Unilever is a different beast. It's probably just a lot of people who are scared of the HR department. They make cookies, they make grain, they do things. I happen to know the former head of Unilever in China, Cassian Chung, was a friend, was also a CEO of Next Digital, conservative Catholic guy. He wouldn't be down with this stuff. So it's coming from a certain node in the corporate brain, which is called the HR and the public relations department. So
right.
What we need to do is a surgery and take them out. I think he can do that. And I think he can start because you just destroy them by providing incentives. That's how you destroy them. You don't have to fire a lot of people. You just change the incentives. And you tell everybody your job is to make a lot of money. And if this gets in your way, you let me know and the people will remove what's in their way. You'd be shocked. I mean, I've seen it time and time again. Great. He doesn't want to be named, but a great story about a company in New York City, delivery company, 75% African American, Hispanic, the rest just a hodgepodge. Guy's never had labor problems, never had a union. He's probably got 350, 400 employees. His philosophy is he just lets people make a lot of money. And so, basically, if you can work for him, you're doing better working for this kind of, messenger service and whatever type of specialty cars he picks up and stuff like that than you are for anybody else. It's the classic that used to be that company, Dial 7 Limousine. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah, sure, I've used them. Uh-huh.
Yeah, they used to be great. They used to be great. And then what happened is that, people started using Uber, but Dial 7 guys used to do pretty well. I mean, and the service was really good. 2 years after Uber, they're crap. I don't even use them anymore because they're just the guy's doing Dial 7, he's doing Uber, he's doing Lyft, and they're pricing each other based on that all the time. So, and also I've had, but the thing is, it went downhill. But before that, you had a generous owner who was trying to do things. And, of course, it's the car hire service. So people are always going to complain about everything because it's not huge money. But in the marketplace, that was it. I just think you have to change the incentives. But Unilever is not a buy yet. They're going to have to turn it around. Because here's the thing about woke. Always remember, woke cost more.
Yes.
You're not making this. I mean, it just costs more. Everything you do, it costs more when you're being woke. Everything. There's nothing that brings it apart there. And my thing with diversity, I have firmly believed in diversity. It's the strength of American companies abroad. It's always been the strength that when we show up, we look like it's a small world from Disney when a U.S. corporation shows up. Little white, little more white than everything else, but not so much anymore. That has completely been destroyed now by the woke people who want, basically have a different definition of woke.
Yeah. I heard some of that on a recent trip to the UAE, to Abu Dhabi and Dubai, where they said, we have certainly decent trade relations with the United States and good political relations. It's up and down, but American business just isn't that present here. And also, it's sort of known if you get American business, you get politics, and people just don't want that.
No, it's one thing the Europeans and the Brits and everybody else, and especially the Asians, they just don't like it. They don't want it. They don't want stuff to come in. You can see it when you go to the various chambers of commerce overseas. Now they're all kind of woke now, you know what I'm saying? But I remember AmCham throughout Asia would always be like, they were way ahead of everybody else and everything. And people go, that's great. And I'm going like, it's not really what your job is. It's not really what you're supposed to do.
Right.
I tell you, I don't ever believe that I never believe that government or even a company can make people happy. What I believe is you can provide the incentives for them to get happy. Every year at our hotels, we have like this annual picnic, and more times than not, I happen to be around when they're having it because it's in the summertime. It's the time when I go there. I go, I show up, I shake hands, I play Big Poobah for literally 15 minutes. You know what I'm saying? And then I leave. And the reason why is because I think this is the chance for them and my employees to have a good time without being reminded of the company, because it becomes from my philosophy that I don't think from the company or from anything else comes joy and all that stuff. And having the big boss standing around while you're trying to drink a few beers with your buddies at work, is not it. My point being is, like, I think people can enjoy everything among their coworkers, everything among themselves, but it's not ever going to be directed by the boss. It's not ever going to be the company over somebody's life. The company can be part of your life. And that's the whole thing with HR. That's kind of I know it's kind of a convoluted thing to finish off with, but I really hate the woke stuff because I think it really is the company's way of just saying, we're not going to pay you more. We're not going to do more. But hey, we've got a really smoking ad there at Nordstrom. Don't you feel proud about that?
Here's a shiny trinket for you.
Yeah, I'll bet it's a trinket. I'll bet here's my thing. Go to the LGBTQ employees and say, hey, guess what? We're spending $1 million on this Pride Week campaign, or we're going to give each of you, say, $1,000,
Yeah.
And we're going to hold a vote. I can promise you, I guarantee you, people are going, hey, I got it. I'm good with it. Give me my $1,000.
All right. Be happier with the money. Well, hopefully also one silver lining of the recession that is likely coming and the financial crunch that might come with that too, would be a new look at some of these things that detract from certainly from revenue and profitability, but also from what, productive employees want to do at work, which is to work and then go home. So, hope springs eternal that there'll be some scrutiny to this.
It's what you said a couple of times a long while ago. If anybody follows this, it's what you said a couple of times. All that's going to happen is everybody's just going to be private companies.
Right.
Because then they're not audited for this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? There's nobody standing there for you. There's nobody coming up. There's no group that George Soros gave money to or something like that saying, oh, the ABC company doesn't have LGBTQ. You know what I'm saying? Weak. If you're a private company and you can be big as private as you want, you don't have to deal with those people. And I think a lot of people, that's where we're going.
Yeah. I mean, why go to public? It's a shame because it reduces the choice for investors. But, if you can just deal with some private investors and private money, then why just go through all of the shenanigans and higher cost of capital of going public, being public? I love it now. The SEC wants climate change impact language in your annual reports and quarterly reports. It's just it's absurd.
Go private.
It's going to happen. All right. That's all the time we have for this episode of Simon and White. And if you like us, please subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on your podcast catalog. And we'll be back again soon with another episode. Thanks.